In another episode of this podcast, I mentioned that there is a category of voiceover work that has been dealing with one of the biggest, most monumental changes in our business for quite a while, for decades actually, going back to the 80s, late 80s, early 90s. And it's a category that I love, and it may be a template for what we can expect and what we should be watchful for in the future. And yes, I'm talking about artificial intelligence and synthetic voices. Let's talk about all this in this episode of the VO Heroes podcast. The category of voiceover work that I'm talking about is interactive voice response, or IVR. And just in a nutshell, I've been doing IVR for a long time, most of my life. Phone trees and prompts and recorded messages when you call big companies. And it kind of gets lost in everything, but a lot of people think that synthetic voices is a relatively new phenomenon. And in some cases it is. Certainly the massive awareness of artificial intelligence and its role in synthetic voices has been garnering a great deal of coverage, both in, typical media, electronic media, performance media. And as it ties into sites like ChatGPT and 11 Labs and other sites capable of creating new content out of simple requests or very little voice training to imitate voices, it can be thought of by some people as a relatively new phenomena. But the truth is, even when synthetic voices were clearly synthetic, like worse than Siri or Cortana or Alexa, worse than even the most 8-bit like, for those of you that remember what 8-bit is, 8-bit like, shall we play a game, from war games back in the 80s. There have been projects many, many times since then that have been voiced, if you will, by a computer, by some electronic device. And good to know, it hasn't killed the category. It has simply been something that exists. So, because I'm still doing IVR work, many voice talents still doing IVR work, depending on the project, depending upon whether the project has the budget, has the visibility, it's for a company that is large enough or forward-thinking enough or just concerned enough about their image to use a human voice. It's not like almost every category or every project in the world of IVR is being done with synthetic voices. Quite the contrary. It's more than synthetic voices, human voices are being used. And so when you look at that history, you realize, oh, okay, wait a minute. Nobody was like screaming that the sky is falling and we're going to lose all of our professional income and jobs and future, and we're going to have to go find, factory assembly line work because there's no need for us anymore in the world of IVR, which is a very expansive, although somewhat hidden category, because you don't see the results on television. You don't see the results in a theater or online in the form of a commercial or a promo or an explainer video. It's only visible to consumers when they call up a company that has one of these programs on their phone line. So the point of this is we've been dealing with this in this one particular category of work for a long time. And to a degree in other categories of work as well, for slightly less time, but longer than the last, year or so, that ChatGPT and AI and synthetic voices has become such a huge divisive issue for performers. And so what I'd like to suggest is that we understand that technology in general is neutral. How the technology is used can be positive for some, negative for others. It can be constructive, it can be destructive. These opportunities with synthetic voices for publishers may keep them in business when the projects that they are trying to get voiced can't afford a human voice, because we've got some, fairly expensive demands in terms of our time, as we should, rightly so, as human beings. So, here's my suggestion. We have some evidence, some long-term evidence, that synthetic voices don't necessarily spell doom for human voices in categories including IVR and others. So what I would like to suggest is that we be watchful, we be cognizant of advances, we be careful about misuse of the technology, we be vigilant, both as union members and non-union members, of the developments in this space, but that we not paralyze ourselves with, that's it, I'm done, doom, we're done. And I'm going to be talking more about this later this fall, as I'm recording this at the beginning of summer of 2023. I'm going to be talking more about this when we open registration for VO Heroes, because I want people to understand that synthetic voices are here to stay. There's nothing we can do about getting rid of them. We can, cavalierly tilt at windmills about this, as many people have chosen to do because they're very dramatic performers. Good for them, their choice, awesome. But I think a pragmatic approach might be helpful, and especially knowing that we don't know what the future will bring. So I just want to kind of ease the fears that some people have, and also raise the bar on being aware of this stuff moving forward. I don't even know if that helps, but I felt like nobody was talking about the fact that, hey, we've been dealing with synthetic voices in IVR for a long time, and we're all still here. So, questions about this? Questions about synthetic voices, IVR, other categories, your future as a performer? Pop them in the comments below this video on voheroes.com, and let's talk about this, because I think it's worth talking about. You can ask to like this post. You can do so by clicking on the like button. You can pound on it hard until it's unrecognizable. You can hit the notification bell. You can subscribe to the channel. There's all kinds of things that you can do actively with this, and I would love if you would do so. You can also share this with other actors and voiceover performers who you think just might be a little bit worried about their future as performers because of artificial intelligence and synthetic voices. And that's great if you do that. Just go up to the address bar, grab it, and send it on. I'm David H. Lawrence the 17th. I thank you so much for watching and for listening to this episode of the VO Heroes podcast.